The Paris Accord was not designed to save the environment. It was designed to kill the American economy. I refuse to surrender millions of American jobs and send trillions of American dollars to the world's worst polluters and environmental offenders. And that's what would have happened.
All right, that was President Trump dismissing the Paris Climate Accord, even as Joe Biden appoints John Kerry to be his special envoy on climate change. Kerry was an architect of the climate agreement that has been knocked by Republicans as a job killer. So what does it mean now that the U.S. is set to rejoin that pact? Douglas Holtz-Eakin is the president of the American Action Forum and joins us now to discuss. So, Douglas, what does it mean? Good morning.
Well, good morning, Sandra. I think the important thing is not so much that, President-elect Biden wants to make climate a priority and has created a position as climate czar for former Secretary of State John Kerry. I think the question is, what are they going to try to accomplish with the Paris Agreement? Rejoining as it stands really doesn't do much. Paris is an agreement where you say we're going to cut emissions, but there's no enforcement of those promises, and we've seen lots and lots of violations of them around the globe. So my presumption is they're going to try to have a Paris Plus where you have promises to cut emissions and some sort of enforcement mechanism. And that's where the rubber hits the road, because if we're going to enforce it around the globe, we have to enforce it in the U.S. And the question is, what does that look like?
Very interesting. The New York Post editorial board takes on Kerry's appointment as the climate envoy and says this: we look forward to the anti-carbon lectures from a guy who travels the globe on private jets and luxury yachts. Kerry also cluelessly negotiated the Iran nuclear deal, even as the real talks were being run out of the White House. Then he had to pretend to cheer an accord that gave away several points he'd said were non-negotiable, such as truly tough inspection requirements. And he helped craft the 2015 Paris Climate Accord, a performative, non-binding triumph. Sounds by your laughing there, it's something you agree with.
Well, I think it does raise some questions about the structure that President-elect Biden has set up. He has a climate czar. The key job of that climate czar, if they're serious about it, is to get China to comply and not make empty promises on emissions. How do you do that? Well, you need leverage on China. I don't think you have leverage just by having a climate czar. You need other weapons of diplomacy and national security and economic force and trade and those things. Well, that's what the Secretary of State typically uses, and they have a Secretary of State. So who is going to do what, and how does this actually change the position of the U.S. versus the world in this issue? And I think that's the open question.
We will continue that conversation in just a moment. But Douglas, our team here has been watching the big board since it began trading this morning, and it was set for quite a rally. That rally has continued. And I'll alert our viewers that we're now looking at a record high for the U.S. stock market. The Dow has now crossed 30,000 for the first time ever. And I'll also note that the Dow just closed above 29,000 for the first time back on January 5th. So you've got a market rally that seems to continue. Now that Joe Biden is the president-elect, the president has given the green light for that transition to continue. A lot of this is optimism over a coronavirus. But Doug, if I could get you to weigh in on this historic moment.
I think this is remarkable. We have never seen a recession and recovery like this, where we've seen equity markets function smoothly, which is fantastic, and rise throughout the recession. That's never happened before. We've also seen housing markets rise during the recession. We've never seen that happen before. And I think you have to ground this in the tremendous advances in medical science that are behind the vaccines and the other therapeutics that we've heard so much about, the monoclonal antibodies and other therapies that will allow us to treat people more effectively. So with that as the sort of force behind it, we now can get the economy to function better, and that's what the market's reflecting.
You know, for those who love all the market stats, I can tell you that if the Dow closed at these levels, it would be the 9th record close in 2020, despite everything that has happened, Douglas. Isn't that remarkable? And this after it hit 22 records in 2019. Final thought?
2020 is like no other year, and add this to the list.
Good way to put it. Douglas, great to see you this morning. Thank you.
Good to see you.